Thank you for the introduction. And thank you all for still sticking around. I know it's been quite a long 2 days, intensive discussions and all that. I'll try to be fast because I know we're a bit behind schedule. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and to introduce to you our work in Foresight and how we try to navigate uncertainty and how we try to avoid noise to gain clarity. So I will basically start by doing a little introduction into myself and into my company, Evonick, and then I will share some insight on some challenges of doing innovation, especially for large corporations such as ours. And I'll go ahead to share more insights on how to go from noise to clarity. I have also brought with me a case study on sustainable construction, how we were able to apply most of the things I will share with you. And finally, I will close and highlight some key takeaways. So here's a little bit about my journey into Foresight. By the way, I'm on LinkedIn. If we're not yet connected, feel free to reach out. So I have a background in running across engineering, business, and innovation. And I've been working in technology scouting, innovation management, and of course, Foresight with one aim, trying to see how organizations can try to identify changes early before these changes disrupt them. And this question has led me into my current role as Foresight. By the way, I did an MBA studies in Esslingen down there in Stuttgart, and I'm happy that we have Otto here from Festos, who happened to have given a lecture during my MBA program there. So yeah, it was nice to see him here. So talking about Evonik, Evonik is a leading specialty chemicals provider. Specialty chemicals are basically small products, so think of it as small but mighty. So little products such as additives, binders, bioactives, and all the rest that you add into end products to improve the performance. For instance, we have products such as fuel additives that we add into automobiles to fuel of internal combustion engines to make them burn more efficiently. We are active also in construction industry. We provide products to make construction materials more walkable. We're also active in the pharmaceutical industry as well as agriculture. And Evonik has locations in several countries, I think about 100 countries or so. And yeah, so you can imagine large corporations such as ours are having a difficult time doing innovation mainly because of technological disruptions. So we have new innovations and technologies emerging every day that are making current business models or planning obsolete. We have market volatility, consumer preferences changing, and also regulations that are always being framed across all these different changes. And a recent example that comes to mind is, for instance, in the space of generative AI. When earlier this year, DeepSeek introduced a model that was more or less good in performance as ChatGPT, but only at a fraction of the cost. This alone wiped out almost $1 trillion out of the stock market. This led governments to, start coming up with regulations to regulate this. And customers, which were also cost sensitive, tried to, start evaluating some of their options, Yeah, so some of all these changes, which brings us to the question, how do we anticipate these changes in the innovation landscape to help our companies adopt? At Evonik, we have corporate foresight. And here we see foresight as a practice that allows us to anticipate all these changes by basically identifying emerging trends. But identifying these emerging trends is just the beginning of our work. What is more important is trying to translate what these trends, these changes in our different markets and business landscape mean for our company, and also helping to inform decision making. We have a good example of companies that used corporate foresight in the past. For instance, Shell during the 1970s. Shell was able to anticipate the changes in the oil landscape, and they were well positioned when there were oil disruptions in the 1970s. So this is the same thing we're trying to do at Evonik with one aim: ensure the long-term success of our company. So our Foresight team is part of Creavis. Creavis is a business incubation unit of Evonik, which is in charge of identifying new ideas that are outside the competencies of our company, maturing them into market readiness before transferring them into the different business lines. Our Foresight team is at the beginning of the funnel. We help to come up with future innovation ideas that we use to fill in the pipeline of this Creavis. Yeah, but in doing Foresight, noise can be an obstacle. I think we have been part of different discussions here where everyone is talking about lots of data out there. How do you really filter through? Yeah. Most of these data out there are quite unstructured. How do you make sense out of it all? And even the little data you're able to filter out is also still much. You have limited time and resources. How do you make this accessible to top management for decision making and all that? Yeah. And also in the end, even if you're able to identify those things that really matter, how do you know when to act? Because of course you cannot really act on every changes that is happening at the time. With this, we have been able to identify 5 key success factors that I would like to share with you here in filtering through this noise. And filtering through noise, of course, means identifying these emerging trends while avoiding distraction. First, we think you need a diverse team that is able to validate and interpret most of these new insights that you find. You need robust tools that help you to make sense out of an uncertain and ambiguous process, such as Foresight, trying to envision the future. You need digital intelligence, tools that help you to scale and have a good oversight in things that are happening. You also need systemic thinking, something that allows you to connect the dots. This is where really the magic happens, because being able to connect the dots between all these different changes shows the difference between what really matters and what doesn't. And lastly, you need a culture, a systemic culture that is able to assimilate the gathering of this insight and integrate it into current workflows. I'd like to also share with you how we put this in practice at Evonik Foresight. Here is my team at Evonik Foresight. We're quite a multidisciplinary team. We have team members with Foresight background, chemistry background, economics, politics, and all the rest that actually help us to, the Foresight experts, for instance, are there to ensure that we're able to apply this methodology, Foresight methodologies well, while the chemistry experts are also there to ensure that most of these things we work on actually are relevant for our company. Yeah. But you can imagine just as 7 people working for a company such as Evonik with about 30,000 employees. This is not possible, which is why we work a lot with internal and external experts. So we have different contacts from our different business lines with which we work with. And yeah, we use the STEEP methodology in our work, which allows us to always have a 360-degree view on topics we are working on. Here is a list of tailored tools that we use for our work, Foresight tools, and depending on the different projects, we just basically go into our toolbox and select the tool that is suitable for the project, and we apply it. So these two are listed not in any specific order, but we have horizon scanning, for instance. This is a tool that allows us to identify emerging trends before they before they manifest so early enough. We have tools such as Future Wheel. This is a tool that allows you to pick a trend, dissect into this trend, identify the potential impact that this trend could have on your business, and also come up with action plans so that these action plans are there. And when this materializes, you just go in and pick this. So different tools, game changer analysis. Game changers are events that when they happen, they could change the markets completely. Take, for instance, COVID that happened. I recall back at my previous company, not Evonick, I wanted to do home office, and my boss was like, this was before COVID, in order for me to do home office, someone needed to come to my home, check if I had all the stuff in place before I could do home office. But COVID happened, and what did they tell us at work? Everybody should just go back home and do home office. Big changes that have potential to change market landscapes. We also have Gen AI tools and digital tools. Here are a list of tools that we also, digital tools that we use in doing our Foresight analysis. News alerts and data aggregators we use to basically scan through all the different innovation that is happening. I think these days you have tools that are, you're able to set priorities, which information do you want to get. So these tools are able to gather this information and send them right into your inbox so that you don't need to spend time going into getting lost into a vast amount of data. We also use academic and patent search tools. Once we've identified some of these topics that are interesting for us, we use these academic tools to get deeper insights into the topics. Innovation and market databases we use to get signals on key players on some of these topics, and also investment flows, how much is really going into this area. And when you use all these tools together, you're able to identify when weak signals are turning into big signals. So strong signals is when this weak trend starts getting attention from different players, from regulators. You get to see how regulation is being shaped around these different trends. Yeah. And finally, analytical and digital dashboard tools that allow us to visualize some of these findings and make it accessible for our colleagues. Yeah, enough theoretical talking. Here is a quick example on how we really applied this tool. Here is a project where we worked on in the construction industry. We all know the construction industry is facing a twin challenge. On one hand, there's growing population. On the other hand, construction materials are highly impacting our environment. So here we wanted to see how can we enable a sustainable construction future. So here we used a scenario methodology, Foresight scenario methodology. This is a methodology that allows one to identify key trends that are affecting a certain topic and create coherent stories on how the future of this particular topic can evolve. Yeah. And basically, these stories could be used to inform decision making. So here we started out by doing an environmental scanning. Here we use, of course, the horizon scanning. We use the different digital tools that are available to us to basically scan the construction landscape. We then did deep dive analysis into these different key factors that we identified. We take these key factors, discuss them with experts to get their insight. Here we use expert panels or Delphi study also. And we then proceeded to do projections to these different key factors. So here we identified in total about 9 key factors that have the potential to shape the construction industry. And we create projections for each of the key factors. So after doing this deep dive analysis, you get a gut feeling on how the future of this particular key factor is likely to evolve. And then we now do a consistency analysis, which I also talk a little bit about more in detail. And this helps us to then construct different scenarios. So what is quite interesting here is we see that AI is actually impacting these different steps in the Foresight methodology. Say, for instance, the in expert interviews. These days it's hard to really get experts to conduct interviews with, but it's now possible to use personas, AI personas. You can use technical, you can give the AI technical or business personas and ask them different questions, and it's quite interesting to see the kind of feedback you get, and it's quite diverse, like real experts. More into the scenario methodology. Here is the list of all the key factors we identified for this project. The ones above, and then the ones below are the different projections we made for the different key factors. And what is interesting about this methodology is the consistency analysis, where we bring experts together and discuss So on the horizontal side is a list of the key factor, and also on the vertical side with the different key projections, we now try to discuss with the experts how does the evolution of one key factor influence the evolution of another key factor. So here you can see some green, red, and yellow dots. If there is a positive correlation, we give it a value, which turns it into green. If there's a negative correlation, we give it a minus value that turns it into red. And then we now take all this data, feed it into software that calculates all the different combinations that lead into a scenario. So down on the right-hand side there are the different scenarios. All the dots there are the different scenarios that are likely to result in the future of construction. And the software, of course, calculates the scenarios and lets you know which of them have the highest probability of happening. So you basically we went through them and selected the 4 distinct scenarios using the Macy principle. So ensuring that the 4 different scenarios are mutually exclusive but collectively exhaustive, so that we have a bigger picture on the whole scenarios here. We ended up with 4 different scenarios for the construction industry. 1, the gray era, business as usual. We have era of change where there is radical transformation in green materials. 1, incremental change where new technologies gain wide adoption in construction industry. And finally, a deglobalized world where there's a limitation in material transfer. And also here, it's quite interesting to see the impact of AI again on our data visualization. What you see above was our attempt to visualize these scenarios without the use of AI. What you see below is, of course, with AI, and you can see it's more presentable. Here you can see there's a little bit of grayish for the gray era. For the second one, you see greenish, and it gives you a feeling we're trying to depict the construction industry. So we took these results, we went into workshop discussions with our different experts to validate the findings that came out of this project, and to also discuss the impact on our company. And it would interest you to know that we were able to identify similar innovation ideas across all these different scenarios here. And while one cannot really predict the future, we were able to give a recommendation to our different stakeholders that by focusing on these ideas that are similar across different scenarios, we are more or less able to stand well if any of these scenarios materialize in the future. With that, I'd like to leave us with this, that every foresight and market intelligence expert here can basically use all these tools to filter through the noise in their different industries. Thank you.